Hello all, this is John from EastCoastArmory.com, and I'm here today with a project start and unboxing video for this 1/6 scale Armortek M4A4 Sherman tank. I've had this kit in storage for a few years and I'm now ready to start on this project. Like with all Armortek kits, they all come in the same type format. You receive several large heavy boxes which contain all the parts. Depending on what type of model you're building, depends on how many boxes you get. Since this is a Sherman, it's pretty much straightforward and you only have 2 or 3 boxes. Some other projects like their Tiger 1 as well as their King Tiger had several more packages because of the more complexity nature of that build. For those watching this video who are unaware of Armortek, Armortek is a British-based 1/6 scale model company. They primarily focus on large-scale radio-controlled model tank kits. Unlike all the other kits that are on the marketplace, Armortek's kits stand out amongst the pack in that their kits are all made to be radio-controlled, but are all fabricated out of scale thickness materials. They're all made out of metal, and all of the panels are to scale thickness to that on the real vehicle. The type of medium that they use is all laser cut and CNC'd aluminum as well as steel. I've built several of their kits in the past, and videos of all these models that I've built from them can be found in my video listings. When the kit first came in, I opened up the boxes just to check their contents, and then I promptly sealed the box back up and put the model in storage. Now that I'm starting the model, let's go ahead and see what's inside the packaging. To do that though, I'm going to need my handy dandy switchblade to go ahead and cut open the securing tape. Now that the switchblade did its thing, let's go ahead and see what's first in this large heavy box here. As you can see, the box did kind of get beaten up a bit from both shipping as well as storage. However, all the parts on the inside are all intact and should be present. Opening it up. We have here the instruction manual, along with 2 free Armortek pens, as well as an Armortek keychain, which is a nice touch. The kit also comes with a certificate of authenticity, which is also a nice touch, and has the number of the actual production run, as well as a signed signature and a date. So that's a very nice touch that they did that. As for the manual, there's the manual here. This is for their Sherman Firefly, which is what the base kit of this model is. However, since I will be altering it into an American M4A4, I also had parts from their first run, M4A3, which I'll be getting to in this video. Let me put this aside and get into the actual kit itself. All of their parts are they're individually wrapped in bubble wrap here. And also, when you get it from the shipping, or when you get it directly from them, the whole box is filled with popcorns. The popcorns were removed just for storage reasons. All of their parts are identically labeled and are packed with great care. This here is the rear deck, as well as, actually it's the whole top plate of the Sherman. This is the rear portion here. See, it's all pre-bent to shape. It's made out of an aluminum alloy, which is very light. This differs from the original Sherman kit from 2006, which the entire top deck was made out of steel. So here's probably a frame for the rear deck for the engine, for fitting the engine hatch, as well as the radiator grillwork. This here is the top portion with the large hole for the 75mm turret, and these cutouts here are for the 2 blisters for the bow hatches. One nice touch is that on their M4A4 they redesigned how the kit comes. On their first M4A4, these two triangle pieces over here were not part of the top deck and were two separate pieces. Because of that, they required you to weld or to fasten via straps to keep the plate as one piece. It was a little bit of a challenge to do, but with their new tooling, they were able to improve on the kit. So that's very good for them to do that. Continuing with the unboxing, we have here is the floor plate. Just like on the top deck, it is also made out of aluminum alloy. Again, on the original Sherman kit, these were made out of steel. As you can see, the floor plate has its rear engine firewall pre-bent into the plate, as well as the correct angle here. Also, something interesting about Armortek kits, for those who are unaware, it is all bolt-together construction like a large erector set. Progressing downward, you can tell what this is. This is the hull side plates for the lower hull. This is on the Sherman, this is where the suspension would be mounted to. Now here we can see what I was referring to before about their kits being comprised out of scale thickness aluminum plate. Here's the side panel right here. As we can see, the plate itself is about 1/4 of an inch thick, solid aluminum, very strong and very durable. All the holes are pre-drilled in for the mounting of the suspension, as well as the final drive, the transmission hub mounts, which are over here. Another unique feature is that lately they've been etching both their name as well as the year and the actual production number of the unit on the inside portion of the lower hull. This is a relatively new feature that they've been doing on their models, and the first model I've ran into that they did this with was their King Tiger. Probably the biggest part of the model is the turret. Now, the turret itself is all one-piece casting of aluminum. It's very light, and also the shape is very accurate and is a perfect match for the Sherman. The turret itself is from their original 2006 release of their early production M4A4. Armortek has released two versions of the Sherman. Back in 2006, they made the A3, and back in 2011, they released the 5C Firefly. Now, for this build, I will be building it as an M4A4 Sherman in American markings. So I requested, when I purchased the kit, if they had a spare M4A3 turret from their first batch on hand, which I was lucky and they did, and they hooked me up with the parts from the original A3 model. Special thanks to Jill over at Armortek for accommodating me for getting these parts from the original run. As I mentioned, the turret, it's a solid pot casting kinda, and all bolts together very easily during the construction. And we'll have more on that as the build commences. This here is the front glacis plate, or also known as the front armor plate. Here it is here. Again, you get a kind of feel at the armor thickness on the Sherman. It's slightly over 1/4 of an inch thick. This would be the thickest plate on the entire tank. Again, it's all laser cut and is ready for assembly right out of the bag. Digging my way through the box, we have here these are suspension components. These are the sprocket drums, the sprocket teeth, which I'm not going to take out of the bag right now, but knowing from their first Sherman release, they're very nicely done and they're laser cut. We have final drives in here, as well as a bunch of other bearings and retaining washers and other sorts of things that we'll go over in more depth as the build continues. Reaching in, I got a heavy block of styrofoam here. These are the VVSS bogie housings. These are a lot different on their Firefly release in that the original release, these pieces were made out of cast metal, and on their new production version, these are made out of CNC'd aluminum. They are slightly improved over the original one in that they have their spring tension cover cap holes installed and are pretty much ready to assemble out of the box. I have some alterations that I'll be making to these parts, and again, as the build continues, I'll have some more upgrades. Okay, we are at another heavy component, which are the track links. They come in this pre-sealed box. Not going to open up the box right now to have them go all over the place, but there's a small tear. Here goes the link over here. The Armortek links looks like they're cast. These look to be identical as the versions used on their M4A4 release. They're the steel chevron type. The track links themselves are very nicely done, and they assemble very, very realistically. And again, there's more on that on the way. Along with the track pads, here go the track link components. We have here the guide teeth, which are made out of die-cast metal. They're very nicely done. And we also have lots and lots of track pins, as well as lots and lots of fasteners and retaining clamps which hold the whole system together. These are the little clamps that would go in between the tooth, and when tightened with a fastener, they hold the pins together. So there's going to be a whole lot of bolting that's going to be required for the track links on this one. This here is the turret splash rim, and it's for the upper hull. I'm not going to take it out of the packaging, but most likely it is made out of billet aluminum, and we'll be going over this later. This part here is for the turret. We have the turret floor. It's comprised of both the turret floor as well as the turret bearing gear, which is made out of brass. If you go back in my video listings to my Panther build, I describe how these Armortek builds work with the bearings, and they're actually very, very efficient at making the turret turn very smoothly. While we're on the turret components, this here are the parts from the original Armortek release of the M4A4. This here is your 75mm gun, which is made out of turned aluminum. And we have the M4A4 mantlet. The mantlet itself is made out of, it's one piece, made out of cast aluminum, and is also very nicely done in that it has its cast texture already molded in. In the bag, we also have more components for the commander's copula, as well as probably the hatch and other copula components. These parts here are all from the original 2006 release, and the 2011 Firefly components are very similar. Alright, coming down to the end of the box, we have here components to assemble the VVSS suspension. These are bushings for the wheels. These are axles for both the wheel as well as the swing arm. And in this oily bag here, we have the volute coil springs themselves. Another unique feature about these Armortek Shermans is that the volute spring suspension use actual volute springs. That's a very nice touch. And we have here a bag of coil springs, which are used to stiffen up the volute springs to give you more suspended action on your suspension. We also have here some other parts for fixing the return rollers, which are mounted on top of the bogey housings. Here go all the little fasteners for the track links. As you can see, there's going to be a lot of fastening to do. and more guide teeth. We're down to the last parts in this big box, and we're down to probably one of the more interesting things about the entire kit. That is the model's transmission cover. Unlike their original 2006 release, Sherman, which used a one-piece single cast tranny cover, on their Firefly kit, they developed the earlier three-piece flange-type transmission cover. Obviously, it has other parts to bolt to it to give you that flange look. And there are going to be some more mods and tweaks made to this to make it appear more accurate. However, the CNC castings themselves, or the millings themselves, are very nicely done and are very unique to this kit as opposed to the original 06 release. With the big box out of the way, let's now go into the smaller, thinner box. Again, all of the popcorns were removed, just leaving the components as is. Here we have the side hull panels. You kind of get to appreciate the longness of the long-hulled M4A4, which we'll go over later. The panels themselves are nicely done, as is rest of the tooling on the model. If you notice, this is the exterior portion of the plate in that it has the divots for the countersinks pre-drilled in. These long pieces of metal here are your sponsons. There's two of them, one for each side, and again are all pre-bent and made out of aluminum plate, which is again a lot lighter than the original steel versions on their older kit. The rest of the box contains more components. This here is the rotor drum for the turret, again made out of casted aluminum. This here would be the radiator cover, which is a unique feature found on the M4A4. Again, all the pieces are very nicely wrapped and secured in bubble wrap. These here are your front driver hatches for both the radio operator and the driver. Unlike the first Sherman kit, which were made out of a cast white metal alloy, these ones here are billet CNC'd. Some more bullet splash rails for the upper deck. And these here are your road wheels. We'll take one out just to show the quality. These wheels here are made out of CNC'd billet, unlike the original model, which was casted aluminum. They had the exact same appearance and were the exact same styling, just a different medium which was used for the actual piece itself. More info on the wheels will come as the build progresses. More wheels. These here are swing arms for the VVSS suspension. Again, all made out of billet CNC aluminum. Rear deck cover plate. Again, everything is nice and clearly labeled. This is your engine hatch. And there's your rear deck plate. More and more parts. These are upper deck fittings. Seeing what you get, these are the front fenders. More than likely, a lot of these parts are going to be replaced with better detailed parts from EastCoastArmory.com. But here goes everything. These are the flange mechanisms for the front transmission. Over here we have the return rollers, which are made out of I believe a neoprene or some kind of a polymer material. They're not made out of metal. We have the return roller mounts, which are pressed and shaped sheet metal. And we have the top skid rails, which are also pressed and bent sheet metal. These are the axles for the return rollers. We have here a bag of Armortek Armorpacks parts. Armorpacks and Armortek have do a lot of part component sharing together, and from what I know from Armorpacks parts, they're nicely done and nicely detailed, and I'll have more information on this as the build progresses. Here goes another bag of small top deck components. There's the grill. More info on this will obviously follow. And the last components in this bag here are the H-frames for the suspension. Again, made out of CNC billet material. One last parts that were in that big box is this smaller box here, which are the rubber tires for the suspension. Opening it up, and there they are. The tires themselves are made out of rubber and are nicely done and are very durable. These are the same tires that I have on my other Armortek M4A4, and I've been running that tank for close to 10 years now, and I've yet to have any issue with the rubber tires, so I'm sure that I'll get plenty of life and longevity out of these. In the box here, you get all the road wheel rubbers needed to complete one build. Another thing interesting about these Armortek Firefly kits is that it was a very limited amount produced. There was only 25 of these units produced in this production run. Of those 25 produced, this is the only version that is being built as an American M4A4 75mm Sherman. All of the rest have been built up or be in the process of being built as a British 5C Firefly with a 17-pounder. Another thing that's also interesting is that this is, as far as I know, this is the only rendition of an M4A4 Sherman tank that is in 1/6 scale. So it's also going to be a little bit groundbreaking in that respect also. Now, I also purchased the motorized and the radio-controlled option packs. Those are going to be discussed in another video as the build goes on when I reach the radio control aspect of this model. And that concludes this unboxing / project start video for this 1/6 scale Armortek M4A4 Sherman tank. If you like this video, stop by and like us on Facebook. Also, don't forget to check out EastCoastArmory.com for more 1/6 scale tank builds, as well as other 1/6 scale detail components. Thank you.